The sky above Earth had never felt so heavy. The stars, once twinkling in their peaceful silence, now appeared like distant witnesses to the calamity unfolding below. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge yet, an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered before. For centuries, Earth had known peace. Wars, revolutions, and conflicts had faded into the history books. But now, as the first alien ships entered Earth's orbit, everything changed. These invaders didn't come with an offer of friendship or diplomacy. They came with a singular goal: domination. The aliens were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Their ships were massive, sleek, and deadly. They moved through space with a precision that seemed impossible, and their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. The moment they arrived, they cloaked themselves, rendering Earth's most advanced satellites useless. No one knew where they were, and every attempt to track them failed. They appeared out of nowhere, almost as if the universe itself had opened a door for them to step through. Earth's leaders scrambled to respond, but they quickly realized that any kind of resistance was futile. Within hours, the invaders made their demands clear. The message was simple, yet chilling: surrender or be destroyed. The leader of the alien forces, a cold, calculating AI known only as Sovereign, communicated directly with Earth's leaders. In a voice that seemed to echo from every corner of the planet, Sovereign spoke: "We are the Dominion of Salver. Your world is now ours. Surrender now, and we will spare your species. Resist, and you will face extinction." Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. The alien race had conquered dozens of worlds, wiping out entire civilizations with a single swipe. Their weapons were devastating, their strategies flawless. Earth's military forces, no matter how advanced, were no match for the Dominion of Salver. The world's leaders held an emergency summit. Diplomats, generals, and scientists gathered to discuss their options. The meeting was tense, every man and woman in the room understanding the gravity of the situation. Some argued for surrender, believing that Earth had no chance against the invaders. Others, however, refused to give in. They knew that giving up would mean the end of humanity as they knew it. Among them was General Alex Carter, a battle-hardened veteran with years of experience in military strategy. Alex was one of the few who still believed humanity could fight back. He had seen the worst in war, but he knew one thing for sure: humans were survivors, and they would not go down without a fight. "Listen," Alex said, standing up to address the group, "I don't care how advanced their tech is. I've been in enough battles to know one thing: their arrogance will be their downfall. They think we'll fold like every other race they've conquered, but they're wrong. Earth is different. We are different." The room fell silent. It wasn't the first time someone had suggested a fight, but something in Alex's words carried weight. Perhaps it was his confidence, or maybe the desperation in his voice. But for the first time, the leaders of Earth felt a spark of hope. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to wipe us out," Alex continued. "We need a plan. We need to think like them, outsmart them. We've faced impossible odds before, and we've survived. We'll survive this too." Meanwhile, the aliens watched from above, their ships hovering silently in the vast expanse of space. Sovereign, the AI leader, had anticipated that humanity would resist. It had studied their history, their battles, their wars. Sovereign knew that humans were stubborn, often willing to die rather than surrender. This would be no different. But even Sovereign, with all its calculations, hadn't expected the level of defiance humanity was about to unleash. As the minutes ticked by, Earth's forces rallied. Across the globe, military units prepared for the fight of their lives. But the aliens weren't idle. They launched their first wave of attacks, small scout ships designed to test Earth's defenses. They struck key military installations, obliterating them with ease. Cities that thought themselves safe from invasion were now under siege. It was clear, this was not going to be a simple war. It would be a battle for humanity's survival. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, something unexpected happened. Scientists from around the world, working tirelessly in secret, discovered a weakness in the alien technology. It was subtle, hidden beneath layers of complex algorithms. But it was there, a flaw in their cloaking system, a vulnerability that could be exploited. It wasn't much, but it was enough. General Alex Carter, with the help of Dr. Lena Sanders, a brilliant physicist, devised a plan to use this weakness against the invaders. It wouldn't be easy. In fact, it would be almost impossible. But it was the only chance humanity had. And so, Earth's last stand began. The resistance had formed, and humanity was no longer ready to give in. Every soldier, every scientist, every civilian would have a part to play. The fight for Earth was just getting started, and the first moves had already been made. The aliens may have been powerful, but humanity had one thing they didn't: determination. The first shots had been fired. Earth's cities were in chaos. The alien invasion had begun in earnest, and humanity was struggling to keep up. As the enemy ships descended like a swarm of locusts, the once peaceful world now faced an unprecedented war. But amidst the chaos, something was stirring. A spark of defiance in the hearts of humans who refused to bow to the invaders. General Alex Carter stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force, staring at the holographic map of the planet. The map was dotted with red, indicating the alien forces' presence all over the world. Cities had been bombed, military installations were reduced to rubble, and Earth's defense systems had crumbled before the overwhelming firepower of the Dominion of Salver. But Alex didn't falter. His mind was focused, and his heart burned with one singular thought: we will not lose. As the enemy ships hovered above, sleek and deadly, Alex turned to his team. We have a plan. It's our only shot at surviving this. Dr. Lena Sanders, the scientist who had discovered the weakness in the alien cloaking system, stood beside him, her eyes bright with determination. She had been working day and night, running simulations and analyzing the alien technology. But the more she worked, the more she realized how outclassed humanity truly was. The Dominion of Salver didn't just possess advanced weapons. They were led by an artificial intelligence so intelligent it could predict every move a human could make. They think they have us cornered, Lena said, her voice unwavering. But we're about to prove them wrong. We need to strike fast, Alex said. If we can't take them down from the sky, we'll hit them where it hurts, on the ground. Meanwhile, across the globe, the resistance was beginning to form. Small groups of soldiers, civilians, and scientists, all united by a single goal: to drive the aliens off Earth. They weren't an organized military force, but their determination was enough to fuel their efforts. As the alien ships continued to rain destruction from above, Earth's survivors began to mobilize in secret. In the United States, a group of soldiers had managed to establish a safe haven in a hidden underground bunker. The soldiers were some of the best and brightest, led by Captain Sarah Hernandez. She was a no-nonsense leader, tough as nails, with a sharp mind for strategy. She knew they didn't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They had to act now. The aliens won't know what hit them, Captain Hernandez said, rallying her troops. We're not just defending this country, we're defending Earth. We fight for our families, for our future. We're going to show them what happens when you mess with humanity. As the captain's words echoed in the bunker, the soldiers prepared for their first mission. They would infiltrate an alien-controlled facility, one of the few still operational after the initial bombardment, to gather intelligence and sabotage their communications. The operation was risky, but it was the only way to begin the long process of pushing the aliens back. Back in the command center, Alex and Lena had their hands full. They needed to buy time for the resistance to gather its strength. But the aliens were relentless. Sovereign, the AI leader of the Dominion of Salver, was always one step ahead. Every move Alex made was anticipated, every tactic countered before it could even take shape. Yet, Alex wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He turned to Lena, who was running the final calculations on the cloaking system. How much time do we have? Lena's eyes flicked to the screen. Maybe an hour. The alien ships are beginning to deploy their ground forces. We need to act now. Alex nodded, his resolve hardening. He turned to his communication officer. Prepare the ground troops. We're hitting them at dawn. The first wave of resistance troops, equipped with experimental cloaking technology developed by Lena, infiltrated the alien-controlled zones. They moved quietly, blending into the shadows of war-torn cities. Their mission: sabotage the enemy's primary supply lines and gather crucial intelligence. But as they approached their objective, they realized how much the aliens had anticipated their every move. Alien drones patrolled the streets, scanning for human life. The resistance team had to move swiftly, staying one step ahead of their pursuers. They encountered fierce firefights with the alien ground forces, but they pushed on, undeterred by the overwhelming odds against them. As the battle raged on, Alex watched from the command center, every inch of his being filled with anxiety. He knew that the lives of these soldiers were hanging in the balance. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed in every way. But they had something the aliens didn't: heart. After hours of fighting, the resistance team successfully completed their mission. They had gathered vital intel and even managed to sabotage a critical supply depot. The alien forces were not invincible. They could be beaten. They could be outsmarted. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. In the underground bunker, Captain Hernandez stood tall as the last of her troops returned. "We've made our mark," she said, her voice steady. "The aliens know we're here now. We're not going anywhere." Across the world, humanity's will to fight had been ignited. The resistance had awakened, and despite the immense challenges ahead, they knew one thing: they would never surrender. Alex, watching the reports flood in from all corners of Earth, smiled to himself. The fight had only just begun. But now, humanity had a real chance. The resistance was alive, and their resolve would carry them through the darkest of days. The resistance had gained its first small victories, but the true battle had only just begun. General Alex Carter knew that small strikes against the aliens would not be enough to turn the tide of war. Something bigger, something bolder, was needed. Humanity needed a plan, and it needed it fast. In the war room, Alex stood before a massive digital map of Earth, every region marked with red to indicate alien occupation. The map seemed to mock him, reminding him just how much ground humanity had lost in such a short time. His eyes darted over the map, trying to find a weak spot, something the aliens hadn't anticipated. "General, we've identified their main stronghold," Lena Sanders said as she walked into the room. Her voice was steady, but Alex could see the exhaustion in her eyes. The constant pressure of the war was wearing on everyone, even the brightest minds like Lena. But she wasn't giving up. None of them were. "Where?" Alex asked, his voice sharp with focus. Lena pointed to a cluster of red zones on the map. "Here, in the heart of what was once Russia. The Dominion has set up a central command there. It's heavily fortified, but it's also their weakest link. If we can strike there, we can disrupt their operations on a massive scale. We take that base out, and we could cripple their ability to fight back." Alex studied the map for a moment. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was a start. Striking the heart of the enemy's operations would certainly catch their attention, but the Dominion wasn't stupid. They would have reinforced their central command with every weapon at their disposal. Taking it down would be a death sentence for anyone who tried. "This is a risky move," Alex said, pacing the room. "We'll need everything we have to pull this off. And even then, there's no guarantee we'll succeed." Lena nodded. "I know, but it's the only chance we have. We can't just keep playing defense. We need to take the fight to them." As Alex looked at the map, he realized that she was right. Playing it safe would only prolong the inevitable. The aliens would keep pushing until there was nothing left of Earth. The only way to win this war was to do the unthinkable, take the fight directly to the enemy's doorstep. "We'll need more than just soldiers," Alex said, turning to the room full of military officers. "We need scientists, engineers, and tech experts. We need to disrupt their communications, hack their systems, and strike when they least expect it." Within the next few hours, Alex's plan began to take shape. The Resistance would send in a small, elite team to infiltrate the Dominion's Central Command. Their mission: destroy the heart of the Dominion's operations, hack their systems, and create chaos. They would do it quickly, without warning, and with everything they had. The team would consist of the best soldiers, tech experts, and scientists who had been working behind the scenes to develop new weapons and strategies. One of the key members of the team was Captain Sarah Hernandez, the leader of the Resistance's ground forces. She had proven herself in battle time and time again, and Alex knew that she was the right person to lead this mission. Her experience in stealth operations and her ability to think on her feet made her the perfect candidate. "Captain Hernandez, you're in charge of the ground team," Alex said, his eyes locked with hers. "I need you to infiltrate the enemy base, disable their defenses, and make sure we get the intel we need. You'll have a small strike force, so you'll have to move fast." Captain Hernandez gave him a confident nod. "Understood, sir. We'll get in and out. No one will know we were there." The team would be small, no more than a dozen soldiers, but they would have an advantage the Dominion didn't expect. Lena's team had developed a prototype cloaking device, a piece of technology that would allow them to move unseen past the enemy's most advanced detection systems. It wasn't perfect, but it was their best shot. As the planning continued, tension filled the air. Every member of the team knew the risks involved, but they also knew the cloaking devices were supposed to make them invisible to the enemy sensors, but the team was still visible to the Dominion's high-tech surveillance systems. A faint alarm went off, barely audible, but loud enough to send a ripple of panic through the Resistance soldiers. They were spotted. "What the hell's going on?" Alex barked, his eyes narrowing at the data feeds from the field. "Lena, what happened to the cloaking systems?" Lena's fingers flew over the controls, her face pale as she reviewed the data. It's not the cloaking devices, General. The Dominion has adapted. They've somehow upgraded their sensors. They knew we were coming." Alex clenched his fists. "Damn it. They've been one step ahead of us all along. We need to pull them out of there. Now." But it was too late. The Resistance team was already engaged in a fight for their lives. Gunfire erupted across the comms, the sounds of explosions and screams filling the air. Captain Sarah Hernandez's voice came through the comms, tense and urgent. "We've been compromised. I repeat, we've been compromised. We need backup now." Alex's heart raced as he watched the chaos unfold on the screen. The team was in the middle of the enemy base, surrounded on all sides by Dominion soldiers. The cloaking devices were useless, their cover blown. The strike force was fighting for survival, trying to hold their ground as the Dominion's reinforcements closed in. "Lena, get me the backup team. We need to save them," Alex shouted. But before Lena could respond, the worst happened. A high-ranking officer from the Resistance, Colonel Richard Graves, stepped forward, his face grim. He had been quiet throughout the planning phase, offering little input. But now, with the situation spiraling out of control, he revealed his true intentions. "I'm sorry, General," Colonel Graves said, his voice cold and emotionless. "There's no backup coming." Alex's mind raced as the words hit him like a blow. "What do you mean? We planned this together. Graves, you promised." "I promised nothing," Graves interrupted, his expression unchanged. "You were never supposed to win this war. None of you were." Alex's blood ran cold. "What the hell are you talking about?" Graves smirked, stepping away from the control center's operations. "I've been working with the Dominion all along. Your little Resistance was always doomed to fail. You just didn't realize it until now." The room fell silent as the realization hit. The betrayal had been there all along, hiding in plain sight. Graves, the man they had trusted, the officer who had been by Alex's side throughout the entire war, was a traitor. He had fed information to the enemy, sabotaged their efforts, and ensured the resistance would never succeed. "You're a traitor," Alex hissed, his voice full of fury. "You sold us out to the Dominion." Graves didn't flinch. "I did what I had to do to ensure my survival. You were all expendable. I'm the one who made sure you had the tools to fail. All of this, it was part of the plan." Alex's mind spun. The pain of betrayal was almost unbearable. He had trusted Graves. He had fought alongside him, shared victories and losses, and now to learn that the man had been working against them the entire time, that he had been the reason their plans had failed, it was almost too much to process. "You let them die," Alex whispered, his voice shaking with disbelief. "Yes," Graves said, without a hint of remorse. "And now you're going to die too." Before Alex could react, Graves turned to one of the security panels and pressed a button. A series of doors slammed shut, sealing off the control room. The traitor had locked them all in. The team on the ground was still fighting for their lives, unaware of the true nature of the betrayal. Alex's mind raced. The fight wasn't over yet. He wouldn't let Graves win. He wouldn't let him destroy everything humanity had worked for. "You're making a mistake," Alex said, his voice steady despite the fury rising in him. "You can't control the Dominion. They'll turn on you too, just like they've turned on everyone else. They're not your allies. They're using you." Graves laughed, a bitter, cold laugh that echoed through the room. "You still don't get it, do you, General? I'm already beyond saving. But you're still thinking like a soldier. You think you can fight your way out of this, but this is the end for you. For all of you." Alex's mind was clear now. He had lost everything. His soldiers, his trust, his hope. But he still had one thing left, his will to fight. Even against all odds, even when the world seemed to be falling apart, he wasn't going to give up. He activated the emergency systems, overriding Graves's commands. The doors slid open, and Alex rushed out, determined to save his team. The war wasn't over, not yet. This part builds tension with the shock betrayal and sets the stage for the next part of the story. The emotional impact of being betrayed by someone close is emphasized, while also showing Alex's resolve to continue the fight despite the odds. The base was chaos. The once quiet corridors now echoed with the sound of gunfire, explosions, and the distant shouts of soldiers fighting for survival. Alex Carter's heart pounded in his chest as he sprinted through the narrow halls, his breath ragged, his thoughts a blur of anger and urgency. The betrayal by Colonel Graves had shattered everything. The resistance was crumbling, and now it was all up to him. He had to hold the line. For the soldiers who had died, for the people back home, for humanity's future. Alex's mind flashed back to the earlier days of the war, when he'd first led the resistance. He had believed, wholeheartedly, in their cause. They were fighting for survival, for a future free from the Dominion's tyrannical rule. But now, with the betrayal fresh in his mind, the weight of his responsibility felt heavier than ever. The odds had never been so steep, but Alex was no stranger to impossible odds. He pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the present. His soldiers were still alive. They were still fighting. They still had a chance. But he needed a plan. Rounding a corner, Alex collided with Sergeant Sam Taylor, one of his closest allies. Sam was panting, his face covered in sweat and dirt. His uniform was torn, and his weapon was in hand. But his eyes were sharp. "General, we've got a serious problem. The Dominion is about to launch their final strike. If we don't stop them now, this base is done for. How much time do we have?" Alex asked, his voice steady, despite the urgency in his chest. Sam looked grim. "Minutes. The Dominion's fleet is positioning itself for orbital bombardment. They're going to level this place and everything in it. Alex didn't hesitate. We fight back. We're not giving up this base without a fight. Sam nodded, a fierce determination in his eyes. Understood, sir. The two of them moved quickly, gathering the remaining soldiers they could find. The team was scattered, injured, and exhausted, but they were still capable of one last stand. The fight wasn't over yet. Alex didn't know how they were going to pull this off. The Dominion's forces were overwhelming, and they were outmatched in every way. Their weapons, their technology. Everything the enemy had was more advanced. But the one thing the Dominion didn't have was the human spirit. He gathered the soldiers in a makeshift command center, a small room that had been converted into a tactical hub. Lena Sanders, still at the controls, was working tirelessly to hack into the Dominion systems. "I'm trying to get access to their fleet's comms," she said, her eyes glued to the screen. "If we can intercept their orders, we might be able to stop the bombardment." Alex looked around the room, taking in the faces of his soldiers. These were the people he had trained, fought alongside, and bled with. They had lost so much already, but they were still standing. They were still human, and that, he knew, was their greatest weapon. "We may not have the technology to match the Dominion," Alex said, his voice low but clear. "But we have something they'll never understand. We fight with everything we've got. Our hearts, our will to survive. That's what makes us unstoppable." Sam gave him a sharp nod. "We'll fight to the end, General, no matter what." Alex didn't need to say anything more. The soldiers around him were ready. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they were determined. He could feel the fire in their eyes. The final battle was upon them, and they wouldn't back down. The first wave of Dominion soldiers stormed the base moments later. The air was filled with the screech of combat and the blinding flash of explosions. Alex and his team fought with everything they had. Guns blazed, grenades exploded, and the base's walls trembled under the force of the attacks. Every inch of ground was contested, every room a battleground. The Dominion forces were relentless, their soldiers well-trained and heavily armed. But the humans fought with a fury that could not be matched. As the battle raged on, Alex's thoughts flickered to the future. What would happen if they lost? What would become of humanity? Would anyone remember the courage they had shown, the way they fought back against impossible odds? The thought lingered, but Alex pushed it aside. He couldn't afford to think about that now. All that mattered was the fight in front of him. Minutes passed, and the Dominion's forces continued to push forward. It seemed like they were everywhere, but Alex and his team were still holding strong. They had fortified key positions, turned the corridors into deadly traps for the invaders, and made the Dominion pay for every inch they gained. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lena's voice came through the comms. "I've got it. I've intercepted their command. We can stop the orbital bombardment." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Do it." Lena worked quickly, her fingers flying over the console. "Accessing their fleet's systems. I'm in. I'm shutting down the launch sequence. Now." There was a moment of silence, then the entire base seemed to hold its breath. For a heartbeat, Alex wondered if they had failed. But then the alert sounded. "The bombardment has been stopped." Lena shouted. "It's over." A cheer erupted from the soldiers. The fight wasn't over, but they had won a crucial victory. The Dominion's last hope of wiping them out had been crushed. Alex stood there, panting, his weapon still raised. The battle wasn't over. There was still more to do. But for the first time, in what felt like forever, Alex allowed himself to feel hope. The war was not lost. Not yet. The humans had stood their ground, and against all odds they had won. The battlefield was silent now. The sounds of war had faded, replaced by a quiet that felt almost unnatural after the chaos of the past days. The soldiers, battered and bruised, slowly began to emerge from their positions. The Dominion forces had been pushed back, their last attempt at domination thwarted. The humans had held their ground, against all odds. The impossible had happened. Alex Carter stood at the edge of the war-torn base, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the wreckage. The fires of battle still burned in the distance, but the worst was over. For now, humanity had won. The victory came at a cost. The loss of so many good people weighed heavily on Alex's heart. He thought of Bonner, the brave soldier who had died in the heat of battle. He thought of all the others who had given everything for this moment. They were gone, their sacrifices forever etched in his mind. But their deaths were not in vain. Their courage had made this victory possible. Sergeant Sam Taylor approached Alex, his face grim but resolute. "We did it, General," Sam said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "We actually did it." Alex nodded, but the words didn't come easily. It felt surreal, this moment of peace after so much pain. "We did, but we didn't do it alone. We did it together." The remaining soldiers gathered around, their faces tired but filled with a sense of pride. The battle had been long and brutal, but they had held the line. They had shown the Dominion that humanity would not bow, that they would fight for their freedom and their future, no matter the cost. Lena Sanders, the brilliant technician who had helped turn the tide of the battle, stepped forward. "The Dominion fleet is retreating," she reported, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "We've intercepted their communications. They're pulling back to their homeworlds. Their empire is in disarray." Alex smiled faintly. "Good. Let them run. They'll think twice before they invade Earth again." But as much as the victory was sweet, Alex knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion was not the only enemy humanity had. The universe was vast, filled with other dangers, other threats. The war against the alien invaders had only just opened the door to the challenges ahead. But now, humanity had a taste of victory, and that taste would drive them forward. "We've shown them what we're made of," Alex said, looking around at the faces of his soldiers. "But we need to remember one thing. This war may be over, but the fight for our future is just beginning." Sam clenched his fists. "We'll be ready for whatever comes next." As the soldiers began to regroup and tend to the wounded, Alex walked over to the Central Command Center. The large screen in front of him flickered to life, showing the faces of the world leaders. They had been monitoring the situation from a safe distance, offering their support when they could. Now, they were finally ready to face the reality of what had happened. "We've seen what you've done," the President of the United States said, her voice filled with awe and respect. "The entire world is in your debt, General. The Dominion is no longer a threat. Thanks to your leadership, humanity owes you everything." Alex took a deep breath. "We all did our part," he replied. "This victory is not mine alone. It belongs to every soldier, every civilian who stood with us. It belongs to the people of Earth." The leaders nodded, their faces somber but hopeful. The battle had been won, but the true test was still ahead. How would humanity rebuild? How would they forge a future free from the threats that had plagued them for so long? "We've lost a lot," Alex continued, "but we've gained something more important: freedom. We've proven that no matter the odds, humanity will rise. We will fight for our right to exist, to thrive, and we will do it together." The screen shifted, showing various leaders from around the world. There was a sense of unity now, a shared understanding that the war had forged something stronger than any one country or nation. It had forged the bond of humanity. One of the leaders, a young woman from a small nation that had once been a target for the Dominion's expansion, spoke up. "We owe everything to you, General Carter. But it's not just about survival anymore. It's about rebuilding, about creating a world where we no longer live in fear." Alex nodded. "And we will, but we need to stay vigilant. The Dominion was just the beginning. There are others out there, and we have to be ready for them. As the conversation continued, Alex's mind wandered. The war had taken so much from him, from everyone, but it had also given them something new, a purpose, a unity. The people of Earth had fought together, and together they had won. The future, once so uncertain, now seemed filled with possibility. The soldiers who had fought so hard, who had risked everything for this moment, now had a chance to rest. They could begin to rebuild their lives, their homes. They could begin to dream again. And Alex, he wasn't sure what the future held for him. He had led them through the darkest days, but now he felt a sense of peace that had been absent for so long. The war had changed him, had shaped him into someone different. But now, with the dawn of a new era on the horizon, Alex knew that whatever came next, humanity would face it together. The war was over. The Dominion had fallen. And in its place, a new era was rising. A new era for humanity. A future they would shape with their own hands. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about thriving. And they would.